Have you ever astral projected? Have you ever left your body? Well, if you stay tuned, I'll tell you about the first time I astral projected and left my body. You know, to give you an understanding of what astral projection is, basically, astral projection is one leaving one's physical body, one's astral body, one's conscious body or consciousness leaving one's body. To give you a practical experience, a pragmatic experience, I'd have to take you back to the first time that I astral projected. I would have been about 7 years old, believe it or not, many decades ago. I was a young boy then, about second grade of primary school, and I recall being sent to bed by my grandmother, who was raising me at the time. I went to bed, and all of a sudden I found myself maybe about half hour into just laying there in bed and allowing my mind to just, as children do, letting your mind go. And all of a sudden I found that my body was paralyzed. I couldn't move it. I couldn't move. And in the midst of this, I started to hear this loud humming, buzzing sound, almost like a crackling, popping sound. And as this went on for what seemed to be maybe about 15, 20 seconds, but it felt like forever, and I was a little afraid because, I thought I was going to experience what I heard some of the elders talk about in terms of being hagged by ghosts and all that stuff. So I was afraid. And when the extreme shaking and loud noise stopped, I made an effort to just get up out of bed. And when I made this quick effort to get up out of bed, I just popped out of my body, and the best I can describe it is from my waist up, I popped out, and then all of a sudden the entire me left this, and I started to move towards the ceiling. Now, in my mind then, as a child, I was thinking, this is a dream. This isn't real. And somehow I willed myself back down to the ground, and I started to walk through the house. And I went first into my grandparents' bedroom, and I started to try and talk to them, but they couldn't hear me. And then I went into my uncle's room, and when I went to knock on his door, my hand went straight through the door, and I went through the door as well, and that shook me. And here it is, I'm thinking I'm still in a dream, but here it is, I'm now on the other side of my uncle's room, and I can see him, but I'm trying to talk to him, and he's like ignoring me, and I'm like trying to figure out what is going on. Why isn't my uncle talking to me? Considering that this is my favorite uncle, and he always is open whenever he sees me, lights up. But here it is, this particular time is like I'm not even there. And I phased right back through his door, and I went into my room, and that is when I saw my body for the first time. In seeing the body for the first time, I was very afraid. I was very afraid. It was almost as if the air had been sucked out of the room. And at first I didn't recognize the body, but as I examined it, I realized it was me. But I was saying, if that's me, I'm me. And at first I was real scared. That's the best way to describe it. I was afraid. I left the house, I walked out, and I walked out onto the street. And for some strange reason, I decided I'm gonna start running and jumping along the street. And what I thought was going to be maybe, a child's jump turned into approximately 3 street lights distance in one bound. So now you know, in a child's mind, you're thinking, oh wow, this is super. I got powers. And I started jumping further and further to see how far I could jump, and it got to the point where I was able to take flight on my last jump, and I stayed up, and all of a sudden I felt like I had gone too far. I felt as though I had gone too far, and I had the thought, I need to go home. Because you got to understand, I grew up in a very disciplined and rigid environment. Them old folks, they didn't put up with a whole lot of foolishness, and you out the house. But here it is. At that time, I didn't realize I was astral traveling and I was out of my body. But the minute I had the thought I needed to go home, I shot back into my body like whoosh. And at first it was a strange feeling. It was like I was in something foreign, because here it is, when I came out of my body the first time, I felt this freeness and I felt this expansiveness in what I now know was my astral body. I felt this immenseness, this powerfulness in my presence. And here it is. This was my first experience, and I played with that, believe it or not, as a child for about maybe from say age 7 right up until about age 13, to where I would be able to come out of my body and go into these different places and realms and spaces. The thing is, I thought during the time that I had started it initially, I thought it was just dreaming. I thought I was just having this very intense dream. Now here it is. The next day, when I would go and talk to individuals about what they were doing and things of that nature, and I would be able to tell them what they were doing and so on. And they were like, "How do you know that?" It was only then I started to realize, hey, this is real. But it was a child trying to understand something that I only came to know and understand as a man of 21 years old at that time. But astral travel is an interesting experience. I may share other experiences I've had on the astral plane, but my initial introduction to astral travel was a very interesting one. It was through the eyes of a child. I am grateful that things was so playful and whatnot. But yeah, this was my first astral travel experience. I hope you enjoyed it. If this was something you liked and you like these type of metaphysical topics and stories and discussions, hit the subscribe and like button, and we'll hit you up with more videos talking about this type of stuff and more. This is your Man of Business, Doc, saying thank you for signing in. Thank you for giving me your ear. Have a great day. Have a great week.